produces Dave Harris. He's out of York, Pennsylvania in the Crusher. The Chevrolet with that slogan a lot of Chevys like to use. Have you driven over a Ford lately? Emblazoned on the front of the truck. There's the barely tame Ford. This is Doug Spanier out of Albany, Minnesota.
Doug, what do you think of the conditions here at the Silverdome for tonight's race? Do they differ from other courses?
Most of the courses that we run on have dirt all the way from the starting line past the finish line, whereas tonight we have the concrete in between. It'll be a little bit harder landing. It'll take a qualifying round or first round to get used to it, adjust to it, but otherwise it's comparable.
That's Doug Spanier. He's ready to go in barely tame on the left of your screen against the Keystone Crusher. And he wins it right there. Doug Spanier and barely tame taking the victory over Dave Harris and the Keystone Crusher. There you see the Ford victorious from the end zone. Let's take a look at Doug Spanier right here. He talked about the concrete. That's what he's on now. Gets a little momentum up the ramp and a good-looking run for barely tame. He'll move into the semifinals in what will be an all-Ford matchup. He'll be taking on the Pony Express a little bit later. Only one Chevy has made it to the Final Four. That's the Master of Disaster. But right here, it was all Ford power as Doug Spanier takes the victory in barely tame. Keystone Crusher never got a whole lot of momentum on this course, and he falls prey to a good, strong run from the barely tame Ford and Doug Spanier. So our Final Four has been determined here at the Pontiac Silverdome. Snakebite got a bye run. He's going to meet Master of Disaster, who put away the beast in our first round of competition. The rest of the Goodyear first round results show the Pony Express beating Psycho, and then barely tame knocks off the Keystone Crusher Chevrolet.
Thank you, Scott. As the dust settles in the Silverdome, the Monsters are refueling and making repairs in preparation for round 2. While they do that, we're going to take time out to hear from our sponsors. When Super Traxx returns, we'll chat with veteran racer Gary Porter. Carolina is doing it again this year, traveling around the country and entertaining his thousands of fans in race after race. One of our Super Traxx crews recently spent some time with Gary to find out how he's doing.
I'm Steve McDonald with Gary Porter from Wadesboro, North Carolina. We are indeed a long way from Wadesboro, North Carolina, Gary, and so are you. 6.5 years ago you got going in this business. Talk about how you got into it.
Well, we started back in 1985. My brother, he opened a four-wheel drive center, and he needed something to advertise for the shop there to help promote it. And me and him both was interested in monster trucks, so we sort of teamed up together and went for it. We built the first truck and just started doing local shows, and we started just building and building and getting bigger and bigger into it. Here we are today. In the very beginning, when I quit my public job and went on the road full-time, I couldn't afford to hire anybody to go with me, so I just took off by myself, and I would buy canned food, soup and stuff, in the grocery stores. I'd go back to the motel room and heat it up in the sink, under the hot water. And, that's how I got started, just trying to, save every dollar I could and, try to invest and make my equipment, more competitive. I've been having a problem lately of cutting a real close light. I've been asleep on the line a few times and lost some races. And that's my main thing I'm concentrating on right now, is just cutting a real close light and trying not to bring the engine RPMs up too high so I won't spin out on the line and lose the race. Because in these short races, the race is won right at the starting line. A lot of the time, you just have a gut feeling where you won or lost. I mean, you really can't tell in the truck exactly, but you just have a gut feeling, and most of the time, as soon as you cross the finish line, you know where you won or lost.
When you're on the road, there's a lot of thousands of miles that you travel all by yourself. That's got to be tough.
It is. Well, like this year, I've already been to California and back by myself, and that's a lot of hours just sitting in the truck, by yourself, just listening to the radio and talking once in a while on the CB. And, a lot of thoughts go through your mind. You wonder if it's even worth it. Why am I out here? I don't have no personal life back home, and sometimes I just want to quit and go back and have a normal life.
Now, last year, you had that very decision in front of you.
Yeah, I was ready to quit, and I had everything for sale. I was ready to sell out and just go back, and live a normal life and live at home. And then, some things turned around, some things I like. I'm looking for a big sponsor, to come around, and, I'm here to stay now.
Why do you do it, Gary?
you know, just being competitive. You know, I like traveling, seeing a lot of nice people out here, and, you know, and seeing the country. And, you know, it's just something, once you do it, you can't just walk away from it.
Driver of the Year twice, and that's a reflection of how the other drivers who vote on that award think about you.
Well, I try to help them all I can, because being out here by myself, I have to depend on them a lot. You know, there are a lot of stuff I can't do on the truck by myself, and I have to go over and ask them to help me, and they always do, and so when somebody else has trouble, I always try to be there.
Friends, yet competitors, and then friends again.
That's right. Everybody's friends, you know, out in the pits, in the motels, on the road. Everybody will help everybody. But when you pull to the line to race one of them, you better believe they're not going to cut you any slack.
Thanks to Gary Porter for spending some time with us. And good luck, Gary, in the racing that lies ahead. When we return on Super Traxx, the Final Four from the Silverdome in Pontiac, Michigan. So stay with us.
From the field, then Pony Express goes side by side with Barely Tame. There you see the Ford of the Snakebite on the right, the Chevrolet Master of Disasters on the left of the screen. Joe Nooney was able to catch up with Jim Thomas, the driver of Master of Disaster.
How's the going so far in the Silverdome track?
It's going great. I had an excellent run last time. I kept her straight between cars and held her wide open. That's the main thing.
That's an interesting point. Are you wide open all the way through, or do you ease off at the centerpiece here where it goes back to concrete?
No, I don't let up for nothing.
That's the way you've got to drive it when you're going to take on this guy, Colt Cobra, behind the wheel of the Snakebite Ford.
Well, the way you're driving it, you almost seem to have an easy time with it. I noticed that you seem to ease off the throttle after the first set of cars. That looks like technique you've developed.
Well, over the years, we've learned a lot of different driving experiences. I learned by letting off the throttle a little bit, it'll bring the front end down faster, and I have more time on the ground where I can set up for the second set.
It almost looks like you're on smooth ground.
Well, so far, like I said, the Ford Snakebite's been doing a real good job. We're going to keep it up. We're going to keep pounding on these guys for the rest of the year.
And one more thing. I noticed when you were, announced that you were in the semifinals, you got a big round of applause. You quickly seem to be becoming a fan favorite here at the Silverdome.
That's right. You know, we run on television all last year. We brought this truck out. It's totally unique. It's totally different. People like it. Everybody's falling in love with it. It's just taking a little bit of time.
Snakebite ready to go. Let's watch both the trucks in between the two sets of cars, because you heard both drivers say they're going to handle it differently. Let's see. It looks like Snakebite had the better way of handling that distance between the sets of cars. He gets a victory. Oh, Master of Disaster almost ran into it. Jim Thomas got that Chevrolet shut down just in time. Snakebite's your winner. Let's go to the replay. Isolated on the Snakebite Ford. You can see the bad boy coming at you. And he really launches it up that second set of cars. What a run for Snakebite. A victorious run in the Silverdome. Now on our next angle for the replay, in between the two sets of cars, remember, Master of Disaster said he was not going to let up. Snakebite did let off the gas in between the cars to kind of settle that front end down. Here's where he hammers it, and it worked out great for him. A great run for Snakebite and Colt Cobra. That's an impressive victory, some 3 truck lengths over the Master of Disaster. Snakebite will go into the finals against either Pony Express or Barely Tame. So Ford fans know it's going to be an all-Ford final. Snakebite's a Ford, and so are these two guys, the Barely Tame Ford and Doug Spanier out of Albany, Minnesota, ready to go up against Anthony Fortier and the Pony Express Ford out of Dayton, Ohio.
We're here with Anthony Fortier, who was the driver of Pony Express. He is now going to be in the next round of elimination, and he's going to be competing against Barely Tame. What do you think of that?
He's a good runner. I just got to try and keep the truck on the ground, out of the air, and not bounce too much, and I think we'll be able to take him.
When I watch these monster trucks, they are in the air and bouncing. How are you going to not make that happen?
Try and hit the beginning of the ramp a little slower and get on it when I'm on top of the cars, and try and come off a little slower and just try and make the distance and the difference up between the cars. And the last pile of cars, it really don't matter. I can hit them as hard as I want and get as high as I want, as long as I can get over the first set without bouncing.
Ready to go. You can see Barely Tame. Thumbs up from Doug Spanier. He's looking for a green light, and it's showtime. wild run for the Pony Express, and that's going to cost him. When we see it on the replay, you'll be able to see where Pony Express lost this race, and that was coming off that first set of cars. He got really out of control and was unable to hammer the throttle heading up to the cars for the second time. We're isolated on the Pony Express Mustang, and there was his problem, a wheelie in between the cars, and you can't afford to have that happen. He had virtually no momentum to hit the second set of cars with. In the meantime, in the other lane, Barely Tame was having basically a smooth run. You're going to see it right here as Doug Spanier earns a date with Snakebite in the finals. Right here was the difference in between the cars. Pony Express in trouble, and a good solid shot from Barely Tame. Doug Spanier takes the victory. No doubt, if Pony Express did not pop the wheelie, he'd have won the race. So here's our Goodyear second round results bracket. Snakebite defeats Master of Disaster. Barely Tame knocks off Pony Express. Those two Fords will meet in the final.
So it's Snakebite and Barely Tame in the finals. Now, while you decide who you're going to root for, we'll pause for some words from our sponsors.
Cobra out of Cobra Springs, Colorado, against Barely Tame. Doug Spanier out of Albany, Minnesota. One side-by-side run to see who's the champ of the Silverdome today. Doug Spanier, Barely Tame. Spanier's racing stable has produced the Master of Disaster truck and the Barely Tame truck for the last few years. Barely Tame now seems to be the king of that stable.
How do you think you're going to do against Colt Cobra? He looks awful tough in that Snakebite truck.
I think I'll have him off the line, but for the finish, it might be kind of tough because he's got a little bit better suspension.
Barely Tame is a truck with a lot of horsepower, but this truck does have a great suspension setup, and Colt Cobra knows how to drive it. From Cobra Creek, Colorado, the Snakebite Ford looking to get a win in the Silverdome. He'll have to beat Barely Tame to get the job done. Barely Tame's got the lead, but he couldn't finish the job. He went out of control midway through the second set of cars, and your Silverdome superstar today is Snakebite and Colt Cobra. He takes the victory. Let's watch him on the isolated replay. A good, smooth run. Even though out of the hole, Barely Tame got the advantage, Colt Cobra did not panic. He just ran his nice, smooth race, and it's enough to get him the victory as Barely Tame careened out of control and into his lane before getting her stopped down on the second half of the course. Keep your eyes on the big blue truck at the bottom of the screen. That's Barely Tame. He had the lead here, but his problems come before he gets to the second set of cars, shooting over into Snakebite's lane. Luckily for Colt Cobra, the Snakebite truck is already gone and headed for victory lane. Colt Cobra comes out of the Silverdome with the victory. He's on his victory lap, waving at the fans. A big win for the Ford fans here today on Super Traxx.
You're well in the air. In fact, I don't think your front wheels ever touched the ground.
Well, I tell you what, I knew Doug, like I said earlier, I knew he'd be my toughest competitor if we both made it into the finals tonight. I've been watching him all night. He's been pushing it real hard up the line. I knew we was going to have to get over that first set before him because he's been making up a lot of wheel speed in between the cars. And we just hit it in the high side, in the high top gear, and, you know, the Ford Snakebite just pulled it out in the end. And, you know, I didn't even see him. I knew he'd be there, though, wherever it might end up.
If the competition on this hour of Super Traxx is any indication, we can expect to hear a lot of Snakebite in the weeks ahead. The brand new computer-designed high-tech truck made the trip to the winner's circle look pretty easy. We'll be back to wrap things up in a few moments. That you know drinking and driving just isn't cool. Tell them you learned it here on Super Traxx. See you next time, everybody.